Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial. And yes, well, Blender is fantastic, and something which is almost as fantastic as Blender is fantasy. Alright, so what makes fantasy so fantastic? Well, fantasy is some kind of it's the major part of fantasy is magic, right? And yeah, that's what the next few videos are going to be about. How to make magic in Blender. And well, this is a kind of a series I'm going to make. Magic in Blender. And there will be a lot of tutorials to this topic the next few days. And today we are going to check out how fire works in the Blenderrender. Basically because someone asked how it's working. And yeah, fire is essential, something really essential for doing magic, yeah, right? It's really visible and it's hard to control, actually, in real life. But as a magician, you can throw fireballs and so on. So this is what we're going to make today. We are trying to make a good-looking fireball in Blender. So let's go ahead and open a new scene. I already got a new one. And first of all, we leave the default cube. Well, why? Just basically because we don't need something else. Just apply a little subdivision surface modifier, and that's it. That's our fireball. Well, Blender got two different methods how to create a fireball. And of course, beside the differences of Blenderrender and Cycles renderer, what I was actually talking about, we also got the possibility to use particles, for example. However, let's start with the smoke, the fireball which can be made with the smoke modifier. So first of all, we are going to create a new cube and scale it bigger. This is going to be our domain. This is the part where the smoke and the flames we are going to use will be generated. So everything which is not in this cube won't got smoke. So we go to the physics tab over here and select smoke. And for the next thing is we activate domain. So now you can see that the cube gets invisible. And yeah, next thing we need to do is we need an emitter. So something which emits the smoke and the fire. And for this we just use our cube, which is a little bit subdivided just for this, and then select smoke again and flow. So now our cube is actually the emitter of our smoke. So this is pretty basic. When we play the animation now, you can see it's already working a little bit. We got the smoke, we don't get fire. That's because we need to set this to fire and smoke. Fine. So now we got, yeah. And it's a little bit slow. So things we can do against this is smoke adaptive domain, this thing here, make it a little bit bigger. This will just generate the things in the necessarily area. So just in this area, in this little box, you can see which is getting generated. Just for this, it will generate the smoke automatically. So it adjusts the size of the box and reduces the calculate time, which is pretty helpful. Another thing we can use is check dissolve. Now we don't have this huge mushroom out of smoke at the top, just this. And this is actually basically just what we need. So first of all, we go ahead and render, and you see nothing. Okay, some of you might have expected it already, because maybe some of you already know how it works. Because actually, now you can see we just rendered our cube. But we don't want to render our cube, we want to render the fire. And for this, we need to give our cube a new material. Of course, it's going to be a volume material, so select volume over here, not surface, not wire, volume, and scroll down the density. And when you press render now, you can see nothing. The cube just went away. That's because we need a special texture, a voxel data map. For our cube, this is cube 0.001. So now it got the smoke data. From the smoke modifier is a voxel map. And when we now hit render, but check density, of course, not emission, you can see nothing. Oh, right. Check generated. Now you can see smoke. Well, it's not that obvious right now. So we turn down the surrounding light and render it again, and you can see there's our smoke here. That's fine. So how is it working? The voxel map basically just tells how density, it's hard to describe, how density at each point of this cube the whole thing is. So the smoke is. So for this kind of here, the value is 0, so nothing will be rendered. Inside the smoke, the value might be 1, so everything is going to be rendered. So it's pretty solid. And it does this for each layer. So when we increase the resolution, for example, to 100 and let it, animate it again, you can see it got way more finer, it's just got more detailed, and it got a high resolution, which is of course way better. So now you can see the details are way greater, and yeah, now it does this for smaller boxes. However, but we don't just want the smoke, we actually want a fireball. So now you can just say, oh Wayne, I don't need the flame, I just take the fireball, give me the emission and the emission color, right? A ramp. Yeah, basically something like this. Now you can see we got a white flame. But you can also say, leave this away, we just take the density for here. And now we go ahead and add a new new texture, not new material, I'm sorry. Select the cube again, generate it, and now we got the option to select between smoke and flame. You see we just don't have that much smoke, a little bit flame, the other way around. We got a lot of flame but less smoke, and yeah, that's our flame. I just checked emission and emission color, and because the whole thing is right now purple, it looks like this. But we don't want this, we want actual color. So as you can see here, you can use this actually as a pretty interesting template. you see in the center it's completely white. Yeah. Then a little bit further it's more like an orange. Yeah. Something like a beige orange color. Yeah, something like this. And when it goes further, we see it's more like it's more an obvious orange. And well, somewhere in between there is still a little bit yellow. So turn it yellow at some points. And at the end it's completely red. Not completely, but it turns red. You know what I mean. Something like this, which is actually not really what we want. It just doesn't look that good right now. So increase the emission and the emission color. Maybe not that much. We need more emission, definitely. And less emission color. Something like 1.2. No. Alright, just increase the emission. This looks pretty fine. So we got a fireball now. But as I already told you, we can also use the smoke for this. And this, in my opinion, looks a little bit more impressive. So let me put this over here a little bit, because now it uses the complete smoke, and I think it looks more cool. But it's all up to you, of course. Now there are some few things you can still adjust, like the density scale. You can set this to 2, so it's more dense, right? You can set it to 0.1, and then it's less dense. You can increase the scatter and decrease. Lower values are higher, more dense somehow, and yeah, bigger values look like this. So we stay at something like this, and we got our fireball. Well, it's basically just a little bit wide. For this, actually, I usually just take the node editor, because when you just put in some glare, yeah, it turns out like this. Turn the threshold a little bit down. Yeah, this looks more threatening. But now you can also just play around with this. You see, we got our ramp. For example, now you can go ahead and say, I just want green smoke, yeah? A green flame. A really green flame with a little bit yellow. Yeah, something like this. And this looks also cool, I think. The cool thing about magic is it's nothing real. So it's a little bit extraordinary, if you know what I mean. So you can just use colors whatever you want, and no one would ask. Especially because, yeah, it's not real. No one has ever seen real magic, so you can't refer to anything. So do whatever looks cool, but in the future, in one of the next videos, I'm going to show you how you can implement this to a real scene, because there are some factors how you can make it appear as it looks real. So few things you can also add now. For example, you can just go ahead and add a emitter, a particle emitter. Here, for example, make the gravity negative, and yeah, a little bit randomness. and now you got particles floating around, which can make your scene look even cooler. So, for example, increase the lifetime, more particles, and then, for example, we just use halo. Yeah, that's fine. Right, halo materials. I don't know if some of you have heard of this already. Probably they already tried out. Halo is a kind of material next to surface, Y, and volume, which makes the single vertices blurry, appear as a blurry ball, and this also can make some cool effects. Like for example, we got this, now decrease the alpha, increase the add value, and now let's take green again. What you can see now is some green dots. Now we can decrease them. We can decrease the size of them, like 0.3 or 0.5. Now you can see they are way smaller, so small white, small green little dots, which actually look cool. Now increase the hardness, yeah. And we just increase the value of them, how many of them will appear. Alright, that's not much. So, increase the lifetime again, and yeah. The cool thing about a halo in the particle system, which you can't really do with objects, is you got the possibility of adding a trail count. This just calculates the path of the particles they took and copy them along this path and make something like this. Now you can maybe think what we can do with this. For example, we can make lines like this. Increase the size a little bit more and increase the alpha. And you get something like this, which is works actually pretty cool as some sparks or so. So yeah, decrease the length of this a little bit more. You can see the effect and maybe try it for your own later. And yeah, so in this way we, for example, got a nice spark effect, which can actually also be pretty cool for future projects. Now we got our fireball. What we can do now, we can animate this. So I hope you all know the basics of animating. So now we just will throw them from the top to the bottom. So add a keyframe over here, add a keyframe over here, and maybe let it make something like a bow, so something down here. So now render it a little bit, and that's fine. So what we need to do with the particles now is that we need to decrease the forces which will let them float, and take the object force. This one will lead the particles to take the force of the actual object. So the animation data, and in this case it's set to -1, so it will go the opposite direction of our fireball, which is actually pretty cool. I like this feature, and I actually didn't know it before until I found out how it works. As you can see, when I set this to 1, it now will follow our fireball. So it gets the force, so the velocity from our object and taken into the direction where it appeared. So set this to minus 0.5 and I guess it would be fine. Just increase the random value maybe a little bit. Makes your scene look a little bit more interesting and more natural. Randomness is something which is really needed for no, I'm missing the word. Which is really needed for realism, because nothing in realism appears as the same, at least not in the nature, and it's as well as in the magic, because I feel like magic isn't this magic is nothing which is made by people, although it is in movies summoned by magicians or so, but I think it's more natural, so it's not handmade. So it should be more more random. So then it will appear a little bit more realistic. That's what I was looking for. Now we can still play around with those values. You see, we got some little wraps over here. I assume, I'm not sure right now anymore, but I guess it has to do with the sampling, the subframes, and the flame rate. So when we increase the flame rate, we will get more flames. As you can see there, yeah, that's pretty more of a flame. But I think that's not suitable for a fireball. Actually, just for maybe if you want to make, for example, if you want to make a line of fire or something like this, you can increase the flame rate and the flames will stay longer. Other things you can do is increase the source. You can just check out what it's doing. I can show you just. When I increase the value, you see the fireball is getting smaller. So you just got this this kind of mushroom head and no tail. When you set it to 1, it's getting bigger with more than a tail. When you set it to 0.5, it looks like this. It's transforming more and more to a actual worm or something, I think. But when you set it down, it will do the opposite. So thrust everything it got, all the energy in the tail, and don't leave something for the front. But well, it's something, and I always say this: play around with the values, check out what they are doing. Now you know the basics, which actually means that you can play around with the values and check out how they work. You now got an idea how to make a fireball, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It wasn't that quick, so it can't really be told a quick tutorial, however I do it. And well, thank you for watching. See you another day, and I hope, because I got a new microphone, it sounds better this time. So see you in the next video. Good luck with your own projects, and see you then. Goodbye.